Ndiredi ukundiza niphumoya Ndinawamandla ukundiza niphumoya
I'd like to welcome you to One with Amakhosikazi, and also welcome our viewers that will be watching this when we get to air it live. A lot of people might not know you yet, but I'm hoping by the end of the show they'll be able to connect the dots, because they got to read about your story and a lot of shares about a Zimbabwean young lady who's doing great things in the UK, but they never got to know who she is. And I'm lucky enough to have gone to school with you and to have come from a hood that you also came from. So it was easy for me to reach out and say, hi, Seda, you know, you're doing wonderful things. Can you come and share your story with people on our platform? So thank you so much for making the time for us.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor, really.
So maybe I'll start from the beginning. Who is Senamiso Mathobela?
Well, Senamiso Mathobela-Nleya, that is.
Nleya, yes. Now you're Nleya. The last time you were Mathobela, so I have to get used to adding the second surname. Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's been a long time since that happened. I think we're on our 13th year now. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So, who's Senamiso? Senamiso is an ordinary person, ordinary girl. So my upbringing was quite ordinary, really. I grew up a Kovalanda, like you just said. We're in the same hood. I went to Fusi Primary School, and after that I went to John Taylor Secondary School to do my O levels. You know, a lot of us went to boarding school then. That was the norm. And then going up from there, I went to Bopoma High School for a little bit, which, you know, was ordinary as well. And I think at that point, that's when my life changed a little bit. So when I got to Bopoma High School, there was a scholarship going to go to the UK and study A levels, and so, you know, I was chosen as one of the people that would apply for that. So after a set of interviews,
tell me about that, because when we were in A level, we all got the vibe. UK. I didn't quite understand how that worked, and I was really scratching my head. How did you do that? Can you tell me about the process of you leaving Bopoma to go and do A level in the UK and then coming back? What was that all about?
Okay, so that was interesting. It was a random day with school, and a few of us were chosen. I think there was about 5 of us from Bopoma, and we were chosen to go and take some exams at somewhere in town. I can't remember where it was. And when we got there, there were several other students from other high schools around Bulawayo who, you know, that's when we were told that there was an interviewer from the UK who was looking for students to sponsor to study in the UK. So we set the exams and did some personal interviews. And the next thing we were told that a few of us, I think there was 2 of us from Bopoma and then others from other schools around Bulawayo, and we were told that we'd been successful and we were going to the UK. It was just like that. And so the next thing I was thinking, goodness, I don't have a passport. I'd never left Zimbabwe then. So it was
around looking for a passport and preparing for the trip.
Yeah.
Now, what was that like?
Fortunately, Zimbabwe was better then. It was, you know, the passport process was not as it is now. Yeah. So I did manage actually to go to the passport office and apply for a passport within the same day. And the passport came out in about a month's time. So then the process was better than now. I think if it was now, I would have had to wait for much longer, which would have been really hard. So yeah, it was, it was all a learning point. I didn't know, what to fill in and all of that stuff. So, and I was only like, Form 5 kid, I didn't know how to do these things. So it was a big learning, because even my parents, I don't think they could help me at the time. I don't remember anybody trying to help. So it was interesting. But yeah, so the passport came, and I was packing my bag, getting ready to go to the UK. I didn't even know what to pack,
But
I'd never been or even thought about it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Was it more exciting or more scary for you going to a foreign land without your parents at that age?
When I was preparing, I think I was more excited than scared. It was only when I got there and it actually dawned on me, like, this has actually happened, that it was actually scary. It was the first time I lived away from home, and I was here in a foreign land with foreign people I'd never met before. Yeah, it was quite daunting at first, but I started going to school, and I would call my parents every now and then. So, I settled in okay. And to be honest, that I think so far that was the best 2 years of my life. I really enjoyed that time.
That's nice. So were you like at boarding school, or were you staying with the sponsor? What was the arrangement like?
It was like it was like a boarding school setup, but it was like an international village. So there were lots of other students from lots of different countries. So we had people from Nepal, India, Tibet, everywhere, so it was like a big international village with lots of children from lots of different countries there. So we all went to the same college and did the same thing and lived at the village. And, there were lots of activities. It was a big area. So yeah, it felt like boarding school, but the rules were less relaxed than the boarding school that, we used to. So yeah, and then at the end of the 2 years, we were supposed to look for sponsorship to go to uni in the UK or wherever we wanted to go. So I was applying for scholarships for engineering because that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't get any. So, I had a few suggestions to apply for nursing because at that time that's what was going, and a lot of people did that. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do engineering. So because I didn't get a scholarship, I had to come back to Zimbabwe, and that was quite devastating, to be honest. I was, when I had to make that decision, it was quite hard. But then, I knew that, engineering is what I wanted to do. So I thought I would take my chances, at the UZ and see how that goes. I think there was a lot of faith that went into that, I just thought, well, if God wants me to do engineering, I'll end up doing engineering. So I have to see how that goes. And then I came back to Zimbabwe.
So was it easy for you to then apply for and get a place at the UZ, and your parents having to pay the fees for that? Was that something that was smooth transition for you?
No, not at all, actually. So when I came back, it was around May time, which is the end of the academic year here in the UK. And so obviously by then, school university applications would have been done in Zimbabwe, and people would have been offered places. So when I came back, I had a choice to spend a year of not doing anything, waiting for the next application process, or I found out that you could do an emergency application. So I did an emergency application, and I didn't get engineering. I got BSc physics. So when I got that, I really didn't want to go. I said to my mom, I'm not going to go. But then, my mom being my mom, she said, you're going. And so, with the support of my mom and my sister-in-law, actually, they actually pushed me to just go and do physics, because there was no point in just wasting a whole year of my life doing nothing. And who knows what would happen. So I got I got to the UZ and started doing physics. Going to the UZ itself was a challenge, because obviously I'd never lived in Harare. I didn't know the language, and what that's like. Yeah. So that's another challenge that I had to go through. But then when I got there, I registered for physics, and I think I did about a week or two of BSc physics, and the whole time I was quite miserable, really. I used to mourn and tell anybody that would listen that I really don't want to be doing physics. I want to do engineering. And so one day when I was just talking and we just, I think it was during lunchtime, one of my friends said, well, if you want physics, engineering so much, why don't you go and ask the dean? When he said it, I don't think he really meant it, because no one just goes to the dean. I was only part one. But, I thought, I thought about that and thought, what's the worst that can happen? I could go and ask and he'll say no, and I'm no worse. So so I did. I remember it was a Friday and I took my results and prepared a speech to give to the television.
What was in the speech?
Well, it was like when I got there, I told him my story. I told him I've been to the UK and I've come back, and when I came back, I was late in application, but I had the right results. Please, can I join engineering?
Yeah.
And to my surprise, he said yes. He didn't even ask too many questions.
Wow.
So I know, and that was the big lesson for me, which I've had for a while, to just ask for what you want. The worst you can get is no, and you're not worse off, and you just actually might get worse.
Yeah.
So that I think that was an important lesson then. And so the following Monday I got all the paperwork and he signed it off, and the following week I left my I left physics and started joining engineering, and I was really happy about that.
Wow.
But then what happened at that point was when I told everybody that I was actually going to do engineering now, I had so much opposition. I couldn't believe it. The number of people who told me how hard engineering was, how I couldn't manage to do engineering, how people fail engineering all the time.
What was all the
I don't know. I don't think people meant it bad. I think they were just maybe concerned for me that it was going to be really hard, but that's what I wanted to do. So when I started engineering, I was super scared. I worked really hard and made sure I attended all the lectures and studied really hard. I think I probably did more than I probably should have done, which was good for me because I did well, and I started to gain my confidence. But then, I was scared every year, thinking, what if I fail?
But let's go back, Sena, because I'm really interested. As far as I remember, you had sisters, and you came from a all-girls family, am I right?
No, we had one boy. There was 4 girls and 1 boy.
But so you guys overshadowed your brother. Is it an elder brother or a younger brother?
The younger brother.
That's why I never got to know about him, because I know you had elder sisters and one younger sister. So I never got to know about the boy. Now, where did the passion to become an engineer come from? Was it from your dad? Was it inspired by anyone around you or something that you'd seen from a young age? Because from the story you've told so far, it's something you wanted from the time you're still at school.
Yeah, so my passion for engineering started at secondary school, really. My friend, you probably know her, I'm not going to mention names, her father worked for a power station. He used to work at One Power Station. So one time when he came to visit, he was talking about what he does and, how, he has to go in sometimes to turn the lights on. Obviously, he didn't really literally do that, but that's what it sounded like to me, that, he just brings the power back, and the issues with electricity, when it goes and stuff. So that was interesting to me.
Sorry.
I'm against a hammer then, but not as bad as now, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I got interested, and I thought this is what I want to do. So I remember during that session just asking questions, about, what do I need to do if I want to be an engineer? And he was telling me that you have to be, you have to be good at maths, and then you have to do engineering at uni. So I think when he was just talking, to him, it probably wasn't that, impactful. He was just having a chat, but that stayed with me. And from that time, really, it was about, I think I was Form 2 or something, and I wanted to do engineering from then. And, I told myself that I was going to do engineering at university. And, that's what I always wanted to do. Crazy is that sounded that's what I wanted to do, and that was a drive for for all the decisions I made. So even when it came to choosing subjects at O level, I knew I needed to do physics so that I can get into engineering.
So,
yeah.
What's interesting is how it was a discussion with someone totally unrelated to you by chance, because he was the father of a friend. Do you think if you hadn't had a chance encounter with this man, you wouldn't have had an idea to be an engineer? What, before you met him, what had been your ambition?
Do
you think if you hadn't had a chance encounter with this man, you wouldn't have had an idea to be an engineer? What, before you met him, what had been your ambition?
I hadn't. Yeah, that's true. If I hadn't met him, I wouldn't have known about engineering. I wouldn't have known what that was like. I don't think anyone in my circles ever knew what engineering was, or that people could be engineers. What I was encouraged to do was probably be a doctor. So I that was probably what the option would have been for me, I think, because most people that were good at school were probably going to be doctors, because that's what we knew. So what we knew was teachers and doctors and nurses maybe, and policemen, and like the normal professions. I didn't know anyone who was an engineer until I met my friend's dad. So I think that chance encounter was what made the difference for me. And I think it says a lot about the role of showcasing people in different jobs and stuff, so that it opens people's minds as to the possibilities. Because when we grow up, if you haven't seen it, you don't even know it, and you don't even think about it. So yeah, I think that was very important in my life.
Thank you for touching on that, because I was going to say that for us, a lot of our career guidance, I don't remember us having career guidance at John Talak. So, but yet there was a lot of drumming in of the importance of academics and reading and studying. But what you're reading towards really was very narrow, because either we're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and then you were taught practical subjects like agriculture and fashion and fabrics, which meant if you're not very brainy, then you'd need to know how to use your hands. And for me, that limited a lot of us, because when we then got to A-level in university, we weren't sure how we could make use of those subjects on a broader scale to choose our careers. Because for me, the job I'm doing now, I didn't even get from school. It was by chance.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, who knew that job exists, right? We see when we were growing up, we didn't know, So I think that's true. I don't remember having careers guidance, but I remember, there being careers guidance counselors. But I really have no idea what guidance they gave. Probably they gave guidance from also their narrow perspective of guiding us on what they knew, because they probably would have had the same ideas of, the only jobs you can have are lawyer, doctor, teacher, and if you can't do any of those, then you have to use your hands. And I actually think, using your hands was looked down on when we were growing up, but actually, it's actually something that, people should have taken up in a better light, because, you can really make a good livelihood out of using your hands. And that is not something that is preached really in our careers guidance. It looked like, well, if you can't do anything else, then use your hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really think, practical subjects really should be encouraged, because we need practical subjects, and we need that to build our country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast forward to what you're doing now. How did then you move from UZ back to the UK and become the engineer that you are today in the UK power company?
Yeah, so after graduating from engineering, I got the job at the power station, which is what I always wanted to do. Yeah. And so in a way, it felt like, okay, now we're here, what's next? you know. So I started to think about what is it that I want to do in engineering. So working at a power station was fine, but it wasn't quite what my passion was. I found that, you know, it wasn't really what I wanted until I came across operations. One day I was sitting in the control room at the power station and, you know, had the controller speaking to the guy who was at the National Control Center giving instructions and stuff. And so I started to ask, like, you know, what happens at the National Control Center? And it was quite intriguing what they do, power system control. And so that's what I wanted to do. So I applied for a job when it came at the National Control Center. I didn't get it the first time, but then the second interview, I did get it. And so when I got the power system control, I found actually this is what I love to do, you know. So we were the people who used to turn off the electricity. It's interesting how
you are the woman I always picture this man going there, turning off the lights. Now I can put a face.
Well, the thing about it, at the time, it was, you know, the frequency control we did because of the shortage of electricity. To keep the electricity that's there in some of parts, we had to switch off because it's like driving a car up a hill and trying to run it up at gear 5. You can't do that. You're going to gear down to gear 1. So, you know, it can go up. So that's almost similar thing that you do when you're in power system control in order to manage the demand against the supply.
Mm-hmm.
You have to load shed in our case in Zimbabwe, which we never do in the UK. Loss of supply is a thing that you never do, and if you do, you're in big trouble. Which is very different.
So
when
where
I
was this control, the National Control Center where you are now working in Harare or Wange?
Yeah, it's in Harare.
Okay.
The National Control Center is in Harare.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where all the power system control. Well, there are regional control centers. There's one in Bulawayo as well, but the national one that controls the whole national grid in Zimbabwe is in Harare. And when I was there, one day I was just so I was really interested, you know, because power system control work was interesting. It's very dynamic every day. You know, you're balancing supply and demand, and then also you doing switching with the people on site, and you get to speak to lots of people, and it's, you know, it's a very active role, and it's never the same, you know, on a different day because different things happen, different outages are taken. And so I started to think, you know, what does this look like on bigger systems? Yeah, so I was just going through the internet, looking at, you know, systems in Australia and the UK and stuff, and as I was doing that, I came across an advert on National Grid's website with, you know, advertising for power system engineers. And so I applied. I mean, just so, well, what's the worst that can happen, right? That was my motto since uni. Yeah, so I applied for that role online, and, you know, I was so surprised when it came back and I was being invited for an interview. I was like, wow. And yeah, interviewed, and so we had to go to the UK for the interview, which was interesting. So we did, yeah. No, it was interesting. The interview was different from what I'd ever experienced before, because they did like a group interview where, you know, you sit with them and they just observe how you interact in a team and how you behave and all of that stuff. And I just found that fascinating. I'd never been in such a situation, but apparently I did well. So I got the job in the UK, and yeah, and then yeah, that's how I found myself going to the UK again 10 years later to work as an engineer. The way
fate works, like full circle.
Yeah, I honestly, you know, I'm a Christian, so I see God working through that.
Definitely. So, okay, before we get to you being the only woman in that control room in the UK, I want to find out if in Zimbabwe, had you encountered other women engineers at the power station, in the control room and so forth? Was it something that wasn't surprising to you working there?
No, actually, in Zimbabwe, it was the same. Actually, you know, when I went to the UK, I expected better, because Zimbabwe, I was the only woman in that National Control Center. I was the only woman in our. in Kariba, you know, when we started in Kariba Power Station, I was the only woman there. And then when I went to Wange Power Station, there was one other woman. So really, I was always the minority. Even in our physics class, it was 2 girls out of a whole class of, I don't know whether we're about 30. So in the engineering field, really, I was always a minority.
Why? Is it a difficult field for women, or there's not enough role models? Like, I mean, we found out from you now that without the guidance of a friend's father, you wouldn't have known about it. Is it a field closed off to women, or there's just no interest from women, or it's difficult? Like some of your friends were saying at uni.
You know, I think there is that fear that it's difficult, but it's not necessarily any more difficult than accounting or being a doctor, for example. That I think that's super hard, because I did try it. I did A-level biology until I couldn't, you know, until I got to the exams in lower 6, and I was like, I can't do this, you know. So I don't think it's any harder, but there is that perception, and I got that from a lot of my friends when I moved from physics, that everybody thinks engineering is especially hard from women. So I think women get scared away from engineering, I think. But, you know, I think the ZIE is actually doing quite a bit. You know, I've been reading on their website to encourage women into engineering. And I'm hoping that, you know, in the future, I don't know what the statistics is like at the UZ at the moment, but I think there's more women joining engineering now than there were, you know, during my time. So it was always, I think, looked upon as a boys thing to do and not really a girls thing. And I think it was more perception than actually, you know, people trying and not being able to do it. Mm-hmm. So, and I think also as well that whole perception starts from the grassroots, you know, I think we need to change it from our children. You know, we boys play with cars, and, you know, they're fixing things, and, you know, we buy dolls for our girls. So from the word go, we're already teaching girls that, you know, these are boys things and, you know, not girls things. So I think there's a lot that needs to change from, you know, the perception from the word go, from primary school, secondary school. You know, we need to be teaching the teachers and the parents to encourage their girls, if, you know, they want to play with things that are traditionally known to be boys things, and not tell them off, which I think some parents did do then. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I think the world's changing really, and showcasing role models, you know, is actually very useful, because when people see it, then they think, actually, I can do it. And if you haven't seen it, you're not going to think about doing it.
And your parents, your family, were they encouraging? Did they see this as something possible for you? I mean, from an early age.
My mom was always an open-minded woman, I think, because I remember her encouraging me. When I told her I wanted to be an engineer, she I don't think she knew what that was about. But, you know, if she said, well, if that's what you want to do, you know, go ahead and pursue it. Do whatever you want. Yeah, so my mom was always very encouraging for us girls to always do what we want to do and push ourselves, which I think was useful. I don't remember getting any help in, you know, in any, you know, work-related, school-related stuff, because obviously you wouldn't expect that the parents would have known, you know, what that was about. But I always value that encouragement, you know, to just do what you want to do. And so my mom used to say, like, which means like, you know yourself. Mm-hmm. So you know yourself better than anybody else. So don't listen to what anybody else tells you, because you know what you can do. So
follow your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of follow your heart, and don't let anybody tell you you can't when you know you can. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of that where people will be like, I think you can't do that, and then we believe them. Whereas actually, you know that you can do it. You just, you know, then listen to the people who don't even know what you can do.
So you find yourself in the UK, the only woman, Black, from Zimbabwe. what does that feel like? I'm trying to wrap my head around all those accolades at once. Did you realize that was happening as it was happening? Woman, black, from Zimbabwe. What does that feel like? I'm trying to wrap my head around all those accolades at once. Did you realize that was happening as it was happening?
No, I never set out to get any accolades. it was just me doing what I wanted to do. So when I got to the UK, I remember that first year was really hard. So I had a baby that first year, which actually made everything worse. And the transition from Zimbabwe to the UK, the culture change, the difference in how people think and how they react and to things and how success is measured. Like I told you that the interview process was very different. So basically what I found really quickly was success is viewed in a different way, and how you achieve success is different from, the way it was where you just work hard and people say that you're working hard and that's it. Here you need to talk yourself up, you need to network, you need to, do all those things that we were never taught how to do. And so I, struggled a bit with the confidence issue, to be able to speak up, and also being, the only female and black in a mostly white male environment. And, from where I came from, that's quite intimidating. I wouldn't at first, have the courage to speak up or say no to things, and stuff like that. So it was really hard at first to get my feet and see, what's my space, where can I excel, and how do I interact in this new world. And also being a new mom at the time, struggling with a new job, a new environment, and then the baby. And, at home, you'd have mom and aunties and everybody, the whole community. Yeah, and in the UK, it's not like that at all. You are on your own, at the time when I came in, I didn't know that many people. I just come in. So it was just me and my husband trying to deal with being parents for the first time and trying to figure it out. So I was on the phone a lot to my mom, just saying, he won't stop crying. What do I do? So yeah, that year was quite tough. But when you look back, you just think, I don't even know how I made it. But somehow I think, God gives you the grace to get through whatever situation that you find yourself in. So in the work environment, I found, I learned quite quickly. So I joined their networks, there's the women in national grid networks and stuff. So I learned to network through joining through those networks, and found, sort of found my voice in a more comfortable space, not, in the male space of the control room. And I found that quite useful, to hear the perspective of other women and see how I can get my voice back in that space and stuff. And I think I had, I learned at that point that I actually need to have people around me, that I'm not going to have success by myself. And so it was important to get those friendships and networks that, for support, because you need that. You need people around you. You're not going to have success by yourself. That's my view.
Interesting you should say that, Sena, because you were always a quiet person. I mean, not quiet as in you didn't talk to people, but you were very low key, always about your books. Some of us were very loud and noisy and got into trouble quite a bit. And when you talk about the difference in the UK with Zimbabwe, in Zimbabwe, your work speaks for you, like you're saying. As long as you are working, someone will notice. You apply for a job, the interview will be an oral one where you write a test or something and you get promoted. But in the bigger world now, they demand more than just you doing your work. You need to show a level of confidence, a level of working with other people, of solving problems and stuff like that. Is it something that you think in Zimbabwe we could learn from and adopt, or we're still very far from that kind of system? Is it something that we may need to gain for our children if we're going to go to a level of growth as a country?
Yeah, I think there's benefits to it. I think your character grows as well as, obviously you have to be able to do your job and do a good job as well as that. So I think the character side and the personality side, it's important to develop that in our children. And I think a lot of things that I struggled with was the culture issues, where when you took yourself up in Zimbabwe, it always felt like people would think you're bragging, so you would always want to be modest about your achievements and not say out what you have done. And, people who used to talk a lot and outgoing, when kids were like that, you would shut them down. And then there'll be things like, don't talk back at adults, so when your mom or dad would say something, even if it was wrong, you would never challenge it. You would just be like, you don't talk back at adults. So a lot of those cultural things become barriers in the workplace, because you find yourself managing people who are older than you, people who are men, people who look like your father, and you're thinking, how do I tell that person not to do this? How do I challenge them in a meeting when they say something that I disagree with? And that plays into your confidence. You find that because of all the cultural stuff that you have in you, I understand, it's good because it teaches us respect for elders and stuff, but I think in the workplace sometimes it can be a bit of a barrier. I think it's learning to work around that and possibly have a work area and home area to say, okay, at home, yes, I do respect and I don't challenge, but when I'm at work, I need to have this persona. And so I think there is a lot of learning for us in Africa that, I think we need to, especially for girls, we need to be telling them that it's okay to say no to things. It's okay to speak up and have your voice heard, and not, think that you can't speak up. And I am not saying right or wrong, because there is a space to not speak. There is a space to speak. And I think we need to strike that balance, and not end up with girls who are not confident because they can't speak up at work. But also you don't want people who end up disrespectful because they're not respecting the elders at home. So there is a balance to be had, I think.
And then a step up from that, being a Zimbabwean in the UK, you mentioned how at A level you were almost forced to do nursing, which a lot of people get to the UK, they have different professions, different passions, but because there are fewer jobs for Black people, more so African people within that community, they are pushed into the medical field at a nursing level. How did you find your growth within that engineering space, and the respect that you were gaining from your colleagues as someone that was foreign and Black and a woman in the UK?
Yeah, so it's not been easy. It's not been an easy journey. I've had to learn a lot of lessons and overcome a lot of, like the barriers I was just talking about. But I think it's important to have mentors. I learned that, when I look back, my friend's dad was my mentor. I didn't think it was mentoring then, but it probably was. It's important to have mentors who understand what you want and what your aspirations are. And, they can help you talk that out and possibly, make suggestions on, what, you could try this, you could try that and the other. And just having that person to speak to freely, I think I found really helped me, because I've had several mentors over this, and I didn't have just one person be my mentor, because, there's different sections of life, where you go through, sometimes even for parenting, I had, I would think, my aunts and other people who are found in the UK helped me chatter my way through that. And also at work, I would have mentors who were women, just to kind of guide me and, you know, give me ideas of what I need to do, what skills I need to develop in order to do the next role. So what I learned was it's important to plan. So I've become quite a planner. So you plan your way. So you think maybe that's my next role, and then you work backwards. You speak to that person in that role, find out what it's about, get the right courses that you need to get, you know, prepare yourself even before the opportunity comes, so that when the job goes on the board, you're ready. You know, you have the right qualifications to go into that role. Quite often, you know, people want a job because they've seen it on the job board, and you don't have the right qualifications because you haven't prepared in advance for that role that you want. So I think it's important. That's why I do know, if I think I want that next role, I will think in advance, talk to the people that work there, see what courses I need to get under my belt to be able to qualify for that role. And so an opportunity is only an opportunity when, if you're ready to take that opportunity, otherwise it's not really. So yeah, I've sort of learned to plan my life and sort of think ahead of what I want to do, and not just end up in a space where I feel like I've been forced to do this because I haven't put in the work.
I'm sure there are hundreds of people that are watching now that will eventually watch this and say, I know Sena, or okay, she went to Fusi, I also went to Fusi, and they have a lot of questions about how they break the cycle, how they can be what they want to be, how they can dream big. What advice would you give to a young girl like yourself that is in Kwabalanda, Fusi, probably is going to go to a boarding school, a mission, and then they really have no idea that they can make it as far as you have, and sift through all the hurdles and end up on top?
Yeah, so I would say to any of them that, you know, your background or your history or your story does not define what you become. You have to you know, allow your dreams, allow yourself to dream and dream big and follow that passion. So, you know, if I think back at my life, I almost started the planning process then when I was secondary school, because I asked my friends then, how do you become an engineer? Because that's what I wanted to do. And so I knew I needed to do good at maths, and then to do physics, and then do engineering. So it's almost like, you know, planning my life backwards. And I think with any dream, it's important to actually see and map it out for yourself, to say, what do I need to do to get to where I want to get to? And, you know, when you've done that, then it's easy to evaluate yourself. Like, is it really a possibility for me? And if it isn't, then what do I need to do to make it, or do I need to change the plan? Because, you know, you're allowed to change the plan. So I would say, dream big and go for your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because you know yourself better than anybody else.
Wow, that's really wonderful. And you talk about planning, looking at the next goal. Can we expect any movement upwards on your part, or you've reached the pinnacle?
Well, I don't think there's any pinnacle in any situation, to be honest. I don't think we can ever limit ourselves to say this is the end. So I don't know what the future's like, but I do have aspirations to go forward. I don't know what that's going to be like, so we'll see.
Well, it's been so great to talk to you, Senai, and to catch up and get to know what happened to you since we left Emeshini in 96. I can't believe it's been over 20 years now.
So
we
long.
Are old.
It's unbelievable. We're old, I know, we're so old.
And you have sons only. How is it like inspiring boys? Of course, you've gotten into a field that is male dominated, so I guess it's much easier for you to even encourage them more. But what has it been like bringing up boys in a foreign country and all that? Of course, you have the support of your husband, but is it any different?
Yeah. I think bringing up any child in the UK is significantly different than it is at home. You know, that support network that you have at home is totally invaluable, because here you have to work, and then you have to figure out where do I leave the kids. You know, you have to have childcare, and childcare is very expensive in the UK. So it's a challenge bringing up children here, and boys especially, because they have so much energy. You know, these children, they're running around every day, and you're coming from work and tired and trying to, you know, to figure out what they want. And I mean, it was worse when they were kids. Now they're better. At least they're a bit older, and you know, I can tell them to go sit down and do your homework, or go to bed now. But it's a challenge, I think, being a parent and working as well. It's like you're juggling balls all the time, and you're on your feet all day long. You know, there's no rest really, and you just have to decide that I think accept that this is the life that you've chosen. You've chosen to work and be a mom and be a wife and everything else that comes with that, and just get on with it, because what can you do?
Maybe I wouldn't have done justice to this interview if maybe didn't get a picture of what exactly you wake up and do at your job. We know when people talk about the control room, you spoke about Zimbabwe and switching off the lights. In the UK, you talked about never having to do that and losing your job if you switch off the lights. So what does your job entail?
Yeah, it's what's power system control. It's about just monitoring the power system to make sure that you keep the lights on, basically. So on a daily basis, I'm responsible for a team of control engineers. They do the switching on the power system. So on a daily basis, you would have a plan for maintenance. So we have a yearly plan of maintenance of the equipment. So we have about 230 substations. So year rolling, you always have, you know, maintenance that needs to be done. So when you switch something out, we have to make sure that the rest of the network remains resilient to the next fault. So you're not going to, you know, switch everything off a substation, or else you lose supplies. And so my team, you know, will look at that, like how do we switch this out safely and make sure that the rest of the system remains intact. And also we do fault response, where we respond to any system faults, if a circuit trips or transformer trips. And if it stays out, then we have to secure the network to make sure that, you know, for the next fault, we're still secure, we don't lose supplies. And, you know, there's a team that do frequency control who look after, you know, generation, and will dispatch generation in merit order. So in the UK, you know, unlike Zimbabwe, we have a lot of generation. So we have to dispatch in merit orders, like which is the cheapest at a certain time. And when there's too much generation, we have to get generation off, and that's costly. So it's mostly just monitoring the power system to make sure that it stays intact, such that everybody has electricity when they need it every day. And it's very dynamic. It changes every day, you know, depending. And now with solar and wind in the mix, the weather makes a huge difference to any day. You know, when it's sunny, the demand is suppressed. You have low flows, you have high voltages, and then it gets, you know, it gets cloudy or it gets cold. Suddenly the demands all up, and it's such changes. And I love that.
You love adrenaline. I'm saying you have to be on your toes.
I do. Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's never a boring day, I have to say. So there's always something to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. You do a lot of good work. Very interesting, and out of the scope of anything that I mean, a lot of us would understand. So this has been very much an eye-opener. And maybe in closing, I'd like to know about your faith. I know we used to go to church a lot at secondary school. And I always joke with people and say, for me, the biggest thing that I got from John Talak, it was I don't want to call it religion, but my relationship with God. Because I feel like there's a lot that I got from there. At the time, it was very, very boring and mundane and systematic, that it felt like we're doing something, robot. you know, but when I look back, I feel like it helped me get through a lot of things, which I'm still able to get through now because of the things I learned there. Did that work out for you as it did for me? Has your faith kept you going from that time as it did? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I know what it was like. It was like you were forced to go to church and, you know, went to church so often. But I think that learning of the Bible, you know, because we used to sing the Psalms, you know, and now it's like I remember. It's like I memorize, you know, the Bible. I actually did just memorize the Bible.
I went to John like the other day. I was like, there's those songs.
Exactly. You know? I downloaded one onto my phone. You know, there's an online version of the songs of David in Meta.
Oh, really? Please send me a link. I'd really love to listen to that.
So yes, so that was my start of my relationship with God, and I think that relationship really has kept me going, and I have grown in my faith since then. And I really believe that, you know, because I trusted in God and I used to pray about every decision. It's like even, you know, when I got into engineering, I prayed, you know, like for God to help me through it all. And I do not attribute my success to myself. I really have seen, you know, God's hand through it all. And I think as well, because I pray and I feel like that, you know, that makes me brave to take some decisions that, you know, necessarily I would be afraid to take or to speak to people, because when I know that I've prayed, I feel like I have that confidence to say God is with me, therefore I don't need to be afraid, and I will go out and speak to that person, and I'll go up and like you're saying, I grew up very quiet. I never used to speak out or speak to people that I didn't know, but then as I've grown and my relationship with God has grown, I feel like I've become braver, because I think, well, if God is with me, what can happen? Only the good can happen. So that has really carried me through. And right now, I actually lead the Christians at Work network at my work. We meet every Tuesday and we pray and fellowship. And I really enjoy that we do that, because I feel, you know, my faith is really important in who I am, and it has shaped a lot of who I am and what I've done. And yeah, I give God glory for everything.
Wow, Senna, that's a beautiful story. Well, thank you so much. You've given us so much of your time, and I don't want to keep you away from your boys for too long. Thank you so much for making the time. I don't know if you have any last words to share with us, with any people that may be watching now that are very inspired by your story. Any last parting words that you'd want to share?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me. And I do hope that my story inspires someone to, you know, follow their dreams and believe that they can be whatever it is that they want to be. So yeah, no, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Definitely. I'll be showing my girls and telling them, I knew her. And this is what is possible if you really work hard. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching you soar and grow and inspire more people in your work.
Well, fingers crossed, I won't disappoint.
All right, take care. I'll be switching off now, but I'm sure we'll be talking again offline. Otherwise, have a very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Ndiredi ukundiza niphumoya ndinawamandla ukundiza niphumoya